Welcome back to the Human Nexus podcast. My name is Andrew Brazis. I am a marketing and business consultant and private chef.
Welcome back. My name is Miss Laura Machiste. I am a online tarot reader, holistic massage therapist, and energy coach. And in this episode, we are talking about spiritual misconceptions, the collective consciousness, possibly even some deja vu. I wanted to definitely start it on the collective consciousness energy, since that was something we were just talking about not that long ago and had kind of similar external experiences with talking about it not on here. So I'll start off with what I told you. So I saw this video where there was a person talking about an interview with Michael Jackson and how he stated that when he has a new idea for a song or something that he wants to write, he goes into the studio right away. And his joke was that if he doesn't do it right away, then Prince will do it. And giving the indication of the collective consciousness of like how we all receive downloads of ideas, but there are only a select few of people that take action on them. And kind of how I say in readings as well, when I feel like there's an urgency in the reading, I try to make that important in the title for people to understand that there could be like a window of opportunity for this energy. Like, for example, did you ever have an idea that you didn't act on? And then a couple weeks or months later, someone is doing the exact idea that you
I,
had?
I feel like that happens all the time, like especially like in the business world, like in marketing as well. And that's why I just had a conversation with a client that I mentored a couple of days ago, and we were talking about like just how brilliant his ideas are, and he just like he doesn't put them into action. So I was like, okay, next time, like you set aside this time in the day, you write those ideas down, and then put down when you're going to take action on them. Like you can't just, let it go, record it, and make an intentional plan to like make it happen.
Right. Like there was this experience when I was first moving into the suite where I forgot who I was talking to, but this one girl was like, "Yeah, I really wanted to make candles for my business, this, that, and the other, but I just never did it." And then someone else in the suite decided to sell candles.
Mhm.
And it was kind of at the same amount of time. And it's probably like that idea was circulating at a certain moment, and whoever decided to do something with it did something with it. And some people, probably like that person you were talking to, have like brilliant ideas, and when they don't get acted on as fast or as, I guess, I don't want to say the word impulsive, because there's always like planning to it
Mhm.
for some people, not all people. Some people are just very impulsive. But I feel like there is this indication where we share a collective consciousness. And it's kind of like when you're talking with a friend and they say a sentence that you were just about to say. And you're like, how'd you know I was just about to say that?
Yeah. Yeah, I had uh an experience with some friends in the past, and we came to the conclusion that when you have an idea like that, it kind of just like goes into the ether of the room. Like the example that we would always give is like, I'm thinking about popcorn, but I don't say it, and then friend A says, "Man, I really want to go get some popcorn right now," and it's like, oh, like we're in the same collective consciousness, and
Hmm.
it's such a real thing, and I don't think people are aware of it enough.
Yeah, I definitely was not aware of it for a long time of my life. I just thought I was able to read people's minds sometimes. I was
Mm.
like, oh my gosh, am I a mind reader? I'm like, how did I know what they were going to say? Or how did I know? Almost also, too, when you think about someone and then they reach out to you,
Mhm.
you didn't. You didn't think about them free willingly. You picked up on the conscious thought through this collective consciousness we share, and that's why you were able to feel the energy of that person, because they were thinking about you first.
Yeah, and I have an experience. Well, I've had several experiences with that. But when my mentor Barbara passed away, I had a like it was in June of I want to say like 2019, 2020, something like that. And it was a week later when I found out, and I was thinking about her. I was like, man, I wonder like how she's doing, whatever. I'm gonna look it up, and then that's how I found out. And I specifically remember being at her place, and she had like, I was in the middle of a reading, and she had an important phone call. One of her friends had passed away, and I knew that her friend passed away just by like it was in the air, I guess. And I asked her, oh, what was her name? And then that started this crazy conversation, and she went into like explain, what we're just talking about. So it's so crazy how this is like showing up, at least in my life and my experience, like time and time again.
Yeah. Yeah, that is actually, I feel like almost like a multi-dimensional experience that
Hmm.
you had there, especially with the thinking of Barbara, not knowing what happened to her and then looking it up. Like
Hmm.
she went through like the energy field to give
Yeah.
you that like information, and that's also one of the things we have on there of like multidimensionality, which kind of like goes hand in hand with that
Yeah.
specifically.
Hmm.
And it's almost in the sense of at least how I feel when, and as somebody who like works with people, you may also feel this way as well. There are some people that after I work with them, all of a sudden I'm overthinking something random. And I'm like, why am I overthinking about this? Like, what is going on? This is not
Yeah,
something.
you like attach to their energy almost. Yeah,
Yes, yes, exactly.
absolutely.
So one day I remember coming home and I was overthinking about something that I would never worry about. And
Hmm.
I'm like, what is going on? And it was bad. I had to do like some like Reiki on myself and try to really disconnect to it. And then I saw the person 2 weeks later because they had like a regimen with me. And she's like, yeah, I didn't want to tell you this at first, but we're gonna have to start doing the light and sound because I have a cyst in this area. We don't know if it's cancerous yet. And I don't fear those types of things as a holistic healing practitioner. Like I taught myself, you don't fear those things. You don't think about those things. You don't want to create it. So when I did have those overthinking thoughts of like getting sick or all, I'm like, what is going on right now? And then when she told me this, I was like, oh, I not only absorbed your energy, but I brought your consciousness with me almost.
Hmm.
It was just really weird.
Yeah, that stuff kind of follows you. Like that's why I don't know how people who work like in the mental health field, or like in hospitals, like how do you not like you absolutely take that home. Absolutely. Like there's no way that you don't take that stuff home with you.
Hmm. So I was going to say, so in one of our modules that we had in school, we had an energy module where we learned all about like Chinese medicine and all of this
Hmm.
stuff. And I was blessed to have been taught by someone who was in that culture already. So she lived this out her whole life. She taught us how to connect to the body and how to
Hmm.
disconnect to their body after. And I kid you not, when I forget to disconnect to people's bodies, it's over.
Game
I'm like
over. Yeah.
overthinking, I'm anxious, I have a weird
Yeah.
feeling. I'm like, what's going on?
Hmm.
And I wear black all the time in like a protection mode as well and like absorbing the energy. But the
Yeah.
fact that it still could be so potent, and people don't teach things for no reason, especially when it's like in that type of setting. So the fact
Hmm.
that she was so focused on getting us to understand that you connect to the body and you disconnect to the body, that's almost like removing their energy from your field so you don't take it home
Yeah.
with you. And there are times I forget to do it and face the
Yeah,
consequences.
like you really have to. Yeah, you
Yeah.
really, really have to. Do you have any like big misconceptions with spirituality that just like really irk you?
Yeah. So my one of my big misconceptions with spirituality, and this is actually probably going to be a little bit, I don't want this to sound judgy, but it's going to make a little bit of sense. So spirituality, all love and light, right? But then you have those people that are like, oh, I can be love and light, but if you piss me off, then I'm going to be like this. Now, from what I've learned about energy and manifesting, they give an indication of a high vibrational exciting mode. So a
Hmm.
lot of times I will meet people and they don't understand why I am, in their perception, so happy all the time. But it's not that I'm happy all the time. I just learned how to keep my vibration high. And if it's lower, I learned how to seclude and recharge. So when you get those like full on, like love and light, it has to be love and light. It's like, no, you're going to go up and down the consciousness chart. You're
Mhm.
going to flow with the energy. Your vibration is not always going to be up, it's not always going to be down, but you can maneuver how to choose it. And then the other aspect of the duality where you have people saying, well, I'm really love and light, but if you piss me off, then you're going to get it. That's not living a spiritual life. If someone pisses you off, you release it in solitude opposed to attack.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's something that is two different misconceptions to where some of the spiritual people are like, yeah, yeah, I can be love and light, but I can also attack you. And then it's like, no, all you have to do is be love and light. And there's like a middle ground with that where it's like, you can have a low vibe and still be spiritual.
Mhm.
Just don't attack anyone with your low vibe. Figure
Yeah.
out why it's there, release it, and uplift yourself.
Yeah,
So
no, that's
that's
a
one of
really
my
good point.
points.
Yeah. I think for me, that makes a lot of sense. I think people too, like no matter how spiritual you are, we are like, individually, you're still dealing with your ego at all times. And like I mean, I hold spirituality and like mental health pretty closely now. I didn't used to, but I do now these days. And know, no matter how spiritual you are, like how much you practice, you're still gonna get emotionally triggered, which spirals you down, and then people deflect or whatever. And they
Mm-hmm.
use spirituality as like a crutch or a shield or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's a big problem. That sucks.
Yeah. And that's where I'm able to see if you just say you're spiritual or if you practice being spiritual
Mhm.
throughout your life. Because everyone's going to make things are going to happen. You're going to get triggered. You're going to feel this. You're going to feel that. If your reaction to it is not what you've been preaching, then you're just spiritual to say it. You're not
Yeah,
spiritual in being it. And there's a lot of people out there who are either the most religious or the most spiritual, and they're the most angry, they're the most difficult to deal with, they're very negative, yet they
yeah.
they I don't even know. Would you meditate and still be like that? Probably not. But kind of like manifesting as
Hmm.
well. Like a lot of the times when I see videos come about manifestation. They're like, "Oh, believe it's yours and it'll be yours." But that's not all. That's all you. There, no one's giving you any answers.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's
It
part of
doesn't
it,
stop there. Yeah, that's like
right?
one part of the equation. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And after I figured out, they say don't manifest when you're in a low vibe, but a lot of times that's when we're desiring the most. When we're in a high vibration, we're just like, oh yeah, everything is great.
Hmm.
But that's when you're supposed to manifest, when everything is great. And not that you're like asking the universe for more, but using that energy is what's needed. That excitement, that uplifting energy where a lot of people they find themselves in a lower vibration manifest from that position out of like a lack consciousness opposed to a
Well, I think that's why a lot of people use the like I am statements
mhm,
because it's like you don't want to act like this is something that's like out of reach or something that I want, need, etc. It's like, no, you are this thing, and you have to stay at that level to bring these things into you.
right.
Like you have to, it's like a consistent effort, not just like oh, I want this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. And speaking of the I am, that was the first thing I worked with. And that's how
Mhm.
I realized manifesting worked through the I am. And then when I got more and I studied more and researched more, each chakra of your body has its own um affirmation. So the root is I am. The heart might be I love. The third eye
That's
is I
interesting.
see. Yeah, the solar plexus is I create. Like I don't know exactly on the solar plexus, but I know those two in position of not only just aligning the center, but allowing the total alignment to come through. And I started working on that after the I am and started like going up the chakras and being like, okay, I want my heart space to be fulfilled. So I'm going to manifest with the I love. And, or I want my spiritual sense of being to be enhanced. So I manifest with I see. So there has been a couple of different things that you like learn on the journey,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that's another thing that I feel like is a little bit spiritually off in the collective is we look at things as, well, if it didn't happen yet, that means it's never happening at all.
Mm.
And that kind of goes hand in hand with the multidimensionality where things work behind the scenes. Every action you take gains momentum. And I don't want to say it's a misconception because I know people do it, but the act of like writing things down and actually living through it, a lot of people just write a bunch of stuff down, but then they still keep that same personality
Mm.
through life. So,
Yeah.
say you're
It's a
writing
good point.
down, there's a big thing with love that I see people do all the time. I want love, this, that, love, 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 love in their journal. But then when they're in conversations, they're like, F men, they suck. Da, 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 da. And I'm like preaching to my old self right now because it's exactly who I was for a long amount of time. And I saw exactly how it did not work.
Yeah. That's so crazy. And I mean, it makes sense. Like you have to, like I said earlier, you have to stay like a better explanation is like if you're writing something down, whatever it is, and you want that thing, your actions have to align with what you're bringing in. They just
Right.
have to.
Like I want to be famous on YouTube, yet you never posted a video ever in your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, how do you want that to happen?
Yeah. No, it's so true. One of my like big misconceptions, and this might be controversial for some people, but is you like there's really no rules to spirituality. I feel like I think we all kind of create those for ourselves. So like if like I come from a Christian background, I'm no longer identify as Christian, but like I still adhere to like some of those principles or like some of those like I don't know like Jesus and the things that he did. I'm not like a I don't know a big Christian guy, but like that doesn't mean that I still can't meditate with that energy. And I think the misconception is like once you leave a religion, you have to like leave every aspect of that religion. And I think that's really harmful just to like A to your psyche, but also to like your communities. Like you can have Christian friends or you can have friends who practice Buddhism, even if you disagree with like the teaching that as a whole, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
resonate with that so strong as well because I grew up Christian, but as I became more spiritual, I still will call on to St. Anthony to help me find something that's missing. It's not like there's any rules. There is no rule book to it. And what basically you said, and like, I have like a little holy water from my grandma when she gives it to me. I'm not going to be like, no, grandma, don't give me that. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I believe in the energy of water. I believe in the energy of it being blessed. So there it goes. Why can't I have that? So,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. And that's where I also kind of challenge religion a little bit when religious people will say things about astrology and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I would always ask them, like, okay, then why are they there? I just want your take on it. And they never have an answer. Like, well, I don't know. I'm like, so your God did all that for no reason, yet you have an answer for everything else.
Mhm.
So, yep, there is no rule book.
Yeah. No, there's really not. And that goes down to like I don't like meditating or like rituals. Like there's ways that it's been passed down, and I think those ways are great. Like those the things that I've was taught. But then there's also like you can have the same effect doing it your own way. Like there's things that you do that you didn't even know existed, and you're doing them like through like tarot reading and stuff that works for you. And there's apps like that's amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. And I encourage people to explore and, do those things for themselves. I think it's really important instead of like boxing yourself in.
Right, exactly. And bringing up boxing yourself in, there was a picture I saw once, and it was two fishes in a fish bowl, but
Mm.
the fish bowl was in the ocean. And it was like religion is being in the fish bowl, and spirituality is being out of the fish bowl and having the
Yeah.
whole ocean to explore and kind of like really like make up your own way of being and living. And I have a certain oracle deck that brings up a couple different religious figures, and the Christ is in one of them.
Mhm.
And in the part that explains it, they're talking about Christ consciousness and the story that he brought, and this, that, and the other. And that's like something I do resonate with because, and kind of what you said too before about that, in terms of we can be inspired and be connected to things, but it doesn't have to be that we do everything. Like I've looked up Buddhism before, but I'm not dressing like a Buddha, so there's
Mhm.
just like these crazy different things, but everyone, that's the awesome part about spirituality is you kind of can just like make it your own. And
I think that's the better path, in my opinion,
mhm.
because I think we're all so different and we're all going to resonate and we have we're going to resonate to different things. We have different upbringings. So the way that we interact with those things are going to be different. Do you have any misconceptions about astrology?
I feel like astrology is, I definitely feel like the whole generality of sun signs and stuff like that, like, is misconceived, would it be
Yeah,
the other word
misconceived.
for it? Yeah. Misconceived in where people are like, oh, like if I'm a Pisces and I'm being delusional and I know I'm being delusional and I'm like, well, it's just because I'm Pisces, so I'm gonna continuously be that way. Where people take their personality and use it as an excuse, I feel like is a big misconception with astrology because there's so much more to it.
Mm.
And I also feel like there's a misconception with astrology to where kind of the same thing with tarot. And I've been saying that lately in my readings. I'm like, look, if every Ace of Pentacles was a committed offer of marriage, y'all would all be committed and married to each other.
Mm.
So I won't be the one that lies to you here. Kind of the same thing about like when certain transits happen in your chart. Like, yeah, there could be an opportunity that you align with someone, but it matters where you're at. Like, just in my
Mm.
recent thing with astrology, my astrologer telling me that there was like a window of opportunity of aligning with someone. I aligned with someone and I was like, dang, never mind. I don't
Mm.
want to align there, but I see the alignment, but it's not for me. And the way it was brought out to me was like, this person is so important. Look at the astrology, look at the this, look at the that, blah blah blah. And I was kind of like, okay, like maybe the alignments of the details of it was pretty cool, but like the personas was not in alignment with me. So I feel like there are events in your astrological chart and your movement that are fated to happen, and you create your destiny. So you could pass it by. Same thing with tarot when certain things come out and it looks like there's only a window of opportunity, and it's kind of like, all right, well, don't be mad at me. I was just the messenger. And that's why I feel like certain astrologers specifically should kind of sit in that same position as well. I don't feel like astrology has a misconception. I feel like it's the way people read
Mm.
astrology to people
Yeah.
that could have a misconception. I had an astrologer back in the day that I connected to through Miss Machiste, and she gave me the best astrology readings I've ever gotten in my whole entire life. She didn't sugarcoat anything. She didn't do anything that made me feel
Like
kind
extra good.
of right, right,
Yeah.
exactly. Where I'm
Mm.
throwing my question mark on everybody that I meet for
Mm.
2 months, like that. Whatever. experience, but still. My past astrologer, she would do solar returns for me and she would look into every month of the year and she would not lie at all. She'd be like, hey, look, it looks for February. There could be somebody coming in, but when I pulled a card on it, it was the Knight of Cups reverse. So I would probably avoid this person if I were you. And then she would move on instead of being like, oh, someone's going to come in, pay attention. And like,
Yeah.
okay. So I feel like it's the people that do it that give the misconception out there.
I would agree with that. I think too, like with how you were talking about tarot, like and astrology, people like, especially if you are leaving or like you've deconstructed a religion recently and you're getting into like spirituality, you see these things as like, I don't know, like words of God, like the Bible almost. So like you take them for like matter of fact. And in my experience at least, it's more of just like a tool to measure what's going around what's going around with the energy in the moment. And so it's to help you make informed decisions, not like what you're saying. It's not like this like, I don't know, big, moment every single time.
Right, exactly. And I feel like that is one of the biggest things that I see in astrologers, spiritual people, readers, stuff like that. And, I guess to each their own, makes a living
Yeah.
from whatever's needed. But out of like my experience with getting astrology readings and paying attention to my own astrology, there are just fated events that are just supposed to happen, but a lot of the times the details are only going to match up with what you're mirroring into the reality at that moment.
Yeah. It's so
So,
true. And
and no one ever likes to look at their self. They're always just like, well, what's
well,
happening that I don't have to deal with?
I agree with that. And speaking of mirroring, I really do think something. I just made a small piece of content for my personal stuff, but talking about like how we are essentially like a mirror for everything around us. And I think spirituality, astrology, tarot like enhances that mirror and it allows us to see it really clearly. And so like you're saying, like we have these like fated connections that come in. It's, I mean, to me, it's like always an opportunity to see your reflection in the mirror and be like, oh
Right.
shit, this is what's going on with me, or like, this is where I'm actually at. And I don't know if people do that enough. Like, I don't know if everybody, not saying everybody should, seeing like allowing spirituality to be the mirror that it is and not try to like, I don't know, again, put it into the fishbowl or in the
Right.
box, and make it be something that's not.
Hmm. Yeah, and that also occurred in I think the card is called the Map Maker of Destiny, and it's one of my favorite cards in this Oracle deck, and it explains that we have fated events that happen, which astrology is very easy on picking up when those things happen, and you turn them into destiny by how you interact with the event. So, fate doesn't always bring you something that you want or you might want in that moment, but the like a fated event might come in as you losing your job and it was actually what you had to do to live more aligned with your purpose of what you're supposed to do for money. So I feel like those words and those types of readings just get a very like overly positive type of thing. Even in the Leo reading that I got out not too long ago, they got two aces, but the clarifications on the aces were like stress and weird and this and that. And I'm like, I like that this is coming through right now because not do you take every offer that you get? Do you respond
Mhm.
to every message that you receive? No. So the energy could be there, but the free will of what you create out of it is really, I want to say like 85% more important than the fact that there's an alignment.
Yeah. And I think too, like speaking of alignment, like if we're talking about manifesting, I think people, I mean, I know I used to do this. Like I would manifest like, oh, I want this amount of money. I want like this relationship. And I stopped doing that and started working in terms of like whatever's for my highest good. Like I don't care what it
Right.
is. It's just like as long as I'm like my highest good path, whatever that is, that's what I'm calling in. And my since doing that, my life has completely changed. Like my business has improved. I mean, I've been more, I don't like doing this podcast, like this kind of happened. I've had really good friend and like romantic relationships that worked as mirrors to help me like grow in really positive ways. And so that I feel like changing those mantras for me got me unstuck, like with being stuck for years and years and years in spirituality. So
Mhm. Was there anything specific that you did that you feel like was really beneficial for you?
outside of like changing my manifestations, like I talked about like the full new moon rituals that I do every time, like every cycle. Instead of writing for or like journaling for specific things, I would just say I want abundance aligned with my highest good. I'm not asking for a particular thing, and I'm kind of just like I don't know. Like it sounds like giving a wild, like a universe, the universe a wild card almost. I mean, like here, just like do whatever you want, kind of thing. But
Hmm.
th that changed, or that was once I started doing that, I noticed things changing, and then also in conjunction with astrology and tarot, when I know there was like an aligned event or connection coming in. I would say, I mean, if it was like a partnership or a business partner, like it didn't matter what it was, I would just tell myself, okay, I'm going to be as vulnerable and as like not good's not the word, but like honest with myself in this experience. And that means like walking away from deals that I know like I really could do or want, but I know it's not going to serve my highest purpose down the road, so I have to say no. And that leads to bigger things and better things. That's the like I don't know, few things that I changed, and then now things are great.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that as well. I was not a, I feel like because I have evolved into such a needing to help people person,
Mm.
I wouldn't really say no to people who like needed my help. And now I'm more or less in the position of understanding that I can only give from a cup that's full on my own, opposed to it being emptied out. So that was one of the things that I had to learn, that placing boundaries won't stop your abundance. It will just show the universe more of what you want and what you're looking for. Because if
Mhm.
you keep just saying yes to everything, the universe is just like, all right, well, I guess that's what she wants, or I guess that's what he
Yeah,
wants. And I didn't realize that for a good amount of time until really the spiritual journey and the importance of setting boundaries and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Because if you're just the universe, whatever you allow or accept, you will get more of. And like even in romantic partnerships, the more you allow abuse or difficulty, the more you'll get of it. And an interesting thing to learn, but when you do learn it and you put it to everything in your life, you really start to realize like that you were kind of just telling the universe you liked something you didn't for a
yeah.
while.
I'm a key believer that boundaries create alignment. I think
Hmm.
that's like really it's a phrase that I use a lot, and I think it's really really important because we have to, I mean, tell the universe and people around us like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is the direction I'm going. And if you're not on that path, that's okay. Like it's not a negative thing, but it's like this is my boundary, whatever it is. So and that like kind of keeps you, on the path.
Yeah, that actually happened to me in my old relationship that I was in. I just felt like like I would have never been able to do anything more out of my life with being with that person, feeling the need to be with them a certain amount of times. There was just a misalignment with what he thought was important and what I thought was important. And I knew, like, my subconscious, and I had the awareness. I'm like, I will not get far being in
Mhm.
this. I'm like, I have to set the boundary and I have to leave. And now I have a in-person physical suite, went to school for a year. Like I did so much after I placed that boundary and left. Like my whole life is different. I'm even different. And I feel like that goes hand in hand with you indicating that boundaries really do align you, because if I never did that, I probably would have never signed up for massage school. I probably would have never met the people that I met and the people that I'm
Mm.
friends with now and the people that I talk to all the time now. Like I even have like a external group of friends that I didn't have before. So it's just like really interesting how like certain themes or events or people that are misaligned can truly like hold you back.
Yeah, or keep you, I don't know, like almost like I'm a very visual person, so like if we're walking on a path and then let's say it's your partner
Hmm.
and your partner's over here, so you gravitate to them and now you're off your path and then now you're stuck there and you can see the path clearly. I think of Finding Nemo when they're like in the with the turtles and they're going through the I don't know, the surf or whatever it is. You know what I'm talking
Right.
about?
Yeah.
And it's like that is like that path gets them to where they're going really, really quickly. And if they're not on that, they're like you're just wading in the ocean, kind of just like hanging
Mhm.
out for something to happen. So like you have to set those boundaries and create that, put you back on to where you should be, and things do. I mean, it feels like it speeds up when you do that.
Yeah. Oh,
Like it really
absolutely.
does.
Yeah. And that
Um,
was what I knew. I'm like, oh, okay, all this is happening. So it gave me the indication that I made the right choice. And that's what we have for today. Thank you for being here and for watching.
And next time we have a guest on, a dear friend of mine. Her name's Olivia. She is a mental health therapist and a somatic therapist, and she also has a podcast out called The Tampon Aisle. Yeah, thank you all for watching and listening. And please comment below if you have any other misconceptions about spirituality that you feel like is in the community that might need some light. We'd love to hear about it.
Thanks for watching. Bye.